Hi, everybody. This is Kristina Dennis, the Transformational Self Empowerment Master, and I am coming to you on a Monday morning. Happy Monday morning to everybody. Well, it's barely morning, right? I think it's like 10:30 Pacific time, but I have been awake since 5:45, so that's like almost 5 hours, right, of life. It's already started happening, and that's okay, that I'm getting to the video right now. I see everybody plugging in. Hello. Thank you for stepping in. I put a meme up about looking for the good. It came up in my feed last year. Obviously, I was in a good place last year too, still looking for the good. And I wanted to talk a little bit more about how we direct our thoughts and managing our thoughts. Of course, I have a guidebook on transformationalselfempowerment.com. If you haven't checked it out, it's free, totally free. And it really just kind of gives everybody some activity steps, some action steps that we can go to move into an ability to transform our lives in a different headspace. It talks about a lot of different things that I've done over the last 25 years as I've worked through my troubles and things in my origin of life and with almost 500 other people. So that's where I come from in regards to why I get on this channel group and, blab a little bit. A little fuzzy this morning, I think. Okay, back to what I wanted to talk about, which is looking for the good, looking for the clues. Our brain is set to watch for danger. That I know. And if you grew up in a home like I did, or you had a traumatic event happen to you, or you just were born with a predisposition to have nervousness and worry in your soul and your body, then you understand what I'm talking about when we're always looking, when we're vigilant. And I really became aware of how exhausting that was and how detrimental it was as an adult when my son was born. And he is somebody who lives with autism. And from the ages of, first you have the newborn years where you're just watching all the time, right? The infant years. And then you hit an age 2 and we're all watching our 2-year-olds like hawks, what are they going to put in their mouth? What's going to happen? Where are they going to run to? Well, that period, that 2-year-old, 3-year-old worry lasted for 10 years for me. And I know that people have multiple children. I don't know how they do it. Billy needed everything that I had, so I chose not to have any other children. But I remember the vigilance of watching everything that he was doing. And if we went to the park, I was always looking 2 feet ahead, always watching to see what could he put in his mouth, where could he run, what street would he run into, what thing would he do accidentally, or because his body, his nervous system was such that he felt like he needed to run or crash into things. He didn't understand danger. He didn't understand a lot of stuff. So I remember that the vigilance that I had to have year after year after year, and how it wore me out. And then I started realizing that I had probably had that vigilance ever since I was a little child, because I had come from an extremely unsafe home, and a home where things changed all the time, and there wasn't any real understanding of what consistency was. It was more of just watch out, always be paying attention, and how exhausting and tiring that is. And I want to say, for people who've gone through that, or who are going through something similar to that, I am there with you. I am sending you prayers. I am sending you good thoughts. This is not something that you necessarily do wrong. So I hope that you take that out of your thought process. Anybody who is looking at themselves and saying, I just need to relax. Yeah, easy, right? Not easy. And so grace is where I want to begin with that kind of scenario. If you're in that scenario right now, please hear what I'm saying when I say we need to look at the good stuff and look for the good stuff. That I'm not talking about when you're in a critical situation and you have no choice but to always look for danger. We want you out of that situation as quickly as we can, as quickly as you can, and we want you to get people around you to help you through that situation. This discussion is not about that. So I want to be really clear for people who are in the middle of trauma or suffering that I'm not talking about just think happy thoughts and you'll feel better. I would never be that glib about some of those situations, especially somebody who's lived through them. And I work with people who are going through serious traumatic issues right now, and they deserve to be honored and paid attention to. What I am speaking about is the programming that has happened either because of our history, generally because of our history, and how we can start to try to change that, how we can start to notice it. I use something called a fear inventory, which was taught to me by a therapist that I worked with for 4 years. And what she did was, rather than discount fear, she would pull them out and she would explain it to me. And she would say, I want you to take a fear. I want you to rate a fear. One of my fears was that I was always going to see, the person I was with at that time somewhere where he shouldn't be. And what did that mean? That meant I couldn't trust him. And what did that mean? If I didn't trust him, that meant that he could betray me. Okay. And what would happen if he betrayed me? What does that mean if he betrays me? Well, my kind of brain didn't say he's a jerk. My kind of brain went, it's because I'm not lovable. I'm not wanted. Well, hello, that's the fear, right? Not that I'm going to see him in a mall one day when I'm walking. I'm out on an errand and he doesn't realize that I'm out of work, and I run into him and he's with somebody else. That's another side story. But I was having this anxiety, this constant vigilance, always looking, always trying to control, always trying to push, schedule, do it perfectly. And she was helping me with this. And so she said, we're not going to poo-poo your fear. We're not going to tell you, you're not going to tell yourself you're silly for having it. You are going to accept that you have it, and you're going to respect that. And so she would have me write the fear, rate it. Well, in that case, the anxiety was out of control. And sometimes it'd be a 7 or 8 between 1 and 10. And then I would shame myself even more, saying, okay, why am I being so silly? Well, it didn't help me. And it certainly didn't get me into a different mindset. It only made me do more damage to my body and be more upset and more anxious. So once that I figured out the rating, and then I actually broke it down, like I said, he's not where he's supposed to be, I'm not where I'm supposed to be, so I'm going to catch him being where he's not supposed to be. And then, it's going to mean that he's betrayed me or is not trustworthy. And that means because I'm not lovable or worthy of being in a loving relationship. I had never had one. I'd been told I'm unwanted. And that would always go down to it. And then she would have me write a third column, which was the evidence that supported that thought process. Because I needed to honor the trauma that had happened. And in my case, the evidence that supported that process was the fact that my mother left within 12 hours of my birth and denied my existence, and still does to this day. That my grandparents raised me and pretended that they were my parents until I was 16. And my grandmother, who was the sole parent at that time, my grandfather had passed away when I was 13. So I thought at that time I had buried my natural father, my born father, and told me over and over again, you're not wanted, had actions and abused me in a way that I knew that. So that was all real and it needed to be honored. But the last column was the most important. The last column was evidence that does not support this thought process. And in that area, I could write, I have loving relationships with people that matter. God loves me. My son loves me. I am important. People want to be around me. And I could end on that note. And it kind of helped the fear get from out under the bed, out in front, and I'm facing it as an adult, or from the corner. And I'm like, look, I'm not going to be bullied by you any longer. Yes, there are reasons why I have these thought processes, but I'm going to think on purpose in a different manner. And that's what I mean by looking for something good. We hear it from every source. I hear it from every source that I read, listen to, podcasts about having positive thoughts, looking for good things. Well, you got to get rid of some of the trauma first, and that takes work. And you got to be in support groups that love you, not shame you. You have to learn to program your talking and not shame yourself. You have to give yourself grace, like I had to give myself grace. And I found people that did it for me until I could do it for myself. Then I was able to start looking at the world. And rather than thinking on the defense, rather than thinking these people are out to get me, which was a natural thought process after I'd been raised that way. It was a natural thought process after I'd been hurt by so many people. It was normal to be scared and afraid. But once I was able to process that and look at all the good stuff and start replacing some of those people that were continuing that message that had been instilled in me, once I was able to start replacing that with people and doing and putting and inputting the good positive thoughts, I could actually decide that this is the thought I'm going to have. And I listened to somebody today talking about being cut off in traffic. I live in Southern California, and a lot of what they say about the traffic in Southern California is true, right? It's scary on the freeways. If you live in Southern California, You know what I'm talking about. I think if you live on the East Coast, you know what I'm talking about. People are just aggressive in their cars. They're hurting. The world is going too fast. I'm not an expert on all the reasons why people drive the way they do, but she was bringing up this particular incident where, you know, there's a cone and everybody moves to the side and everybody has to go ahead and let people in. And then you have that one car that goes around the side, goes all the way up in front, and then cuts off everybody. And she was saying, you know, look, the injury already happened when they cut you off, right? They already did what wasn't fair, you know, and so rather than perpetuate that, choose to have a different thought, like, wow, I hope there's not an emergency in their life. Wow, I hope that, you know, they're okay. Maybe they need to be on time at work because they have a boss that is out of control and won't accept the fact that California traffic delays happen. And I was thinking about that, and I thought, okay, this is a really pragmatic, everyday, common sense way to think about it. And I believe wholeheartedly that if we look for things that are positive, if we look for the conspiracy to do good in our lives, then we will have a better day. We will be able to give more. We will be able to love more. That doesn't mean that we accept abuse, and it does not mean that we tolerate bad behavior. It means that we give people, no, we give ourselves room to step aside when that train starts coming your way, to make a decision to think of it differently so that we're not continuing to allow the injury to keep happening, the slight, the offense. And I just wanted to leave that with everybody. I don't do it perfectly. I get offended every day. I'm not going to lie. Every day I get pissed off about something. And I'm not talking about the true a-holes that are out there that we know are toxic and bad for us. We know that already. I'm speaking about what you will allow into your brain, what you will reject as a negative thought, what you will say, no, I'm not going to allow that to continue to land on me because I don't want to think about that. It's not important why they had to cut me off. I'm in the line. I'm doing what I'm supposed to do. I'm being a respectful driver. And I'm going to put on some music and give myself some grace and give that person some grace. But, however, I should say not but, however, giving grace starts with the home, starts with you giving yourself grace, starts with you understanding why you have made poor decisions in the past, who owns that, who doesn't own that, and how you can change that. And I know for sure that nobody wakes up saying, I want to be a total a-hole today, or I want to be a brat, or I want to be a ping pong reacting to everything that's happening to me. We just have nervous systems that have been trained that way, and we have to take the time. I want to take the time myself to breathe, to put things that energize me into my life, to give myself love, to connect with God, to feel the importance of this day in my life so that I can be present for everyone that I love. Now, I love this work. I love to talk about this. And I have a lot of really great people around me that I am incredibly grateful for that give me feedback. Anybody who has anything that they want to contribute to the conversation, please don't be shy. Please go ahead and write out something because believe me, if you're thinking it and feeling it, so are many others. And that was the main reason why I wanted to start talking about transforming and the empowerment that it takes to transform ourselves with the help of other people and the help of, for me, God, because I wanted people to start telling their truth and not to be alone. So have a great rest of the Monday. Think a few good thoughts, give yourself some grace, and understand that we are doing everything we can. We wake up with the best intentions, and if we don't wake up with the best intentions, we can change that. Remember, I, Kristina, am changing and I feel strong. That is my mantra, and I'm going to hold on to it at least for the month of March and keep saying it over and over and over again because I have done a lot of changing and I have done a lot of learning. And I am at the tender age of 49, almost 50, and I've still got a lot more to go. So I love everybody who tuned in. It was nice to see, and I can't wait to hear from you. And I'll come in tomorrow. Take care.